Hey friends, I'm back with you again, and we are going to be going through this PowerPoint lesson on theme and how exactly to find the theme of a story. So make sure you have your notes handy from the last video as we go through this PowerPoint, and then because we're going to have some practice passages at the end. All right, so theme is a term that describes the main idea or the message of a poem, story, or a book. So, theme is not just with traditional literature, it's also with poems and other fiction stories. The theme is usually more than one word, but is a brief description about the message the author wants to get across. When you are looking to find the theme of a story, the first question you should ask yourself is, what is the author trying to say to the reader? Where is the theme? The theme is something that the reader has to discover from reading the story. The theme is rarely stated. It is the job of the reader to discover it. Just like a detective looking for clues to put together a story, you need to look for the clues to find the theme. Some of the best places to find clues are in the plot, the characters, and the setting. Why should I care about the theme? Well, finding the theme of a story is an important reading skill. What is even more important is that you can use the text to support your answer. That's those text evidence, friends. This lesson will show you how to be a detective and how to search out the theme of what you are reading. All good detectives show proof. So, when you are talking about the theme, you will need to back up your answers with examples from the text. Think about it. Ask yourself these questions to help you discover the theme. How did the character grow and change during the book? What did the main character learn? What life lesson could someone take away from this story? So try to be specific. When you think about the theme, don't just write one word for an answer. Some use some of the details in the book to help you describe. Write a detailed theme as it relates to the characters in the book. For example, if the theme is love or friendship, think about how this played itself out in the story. Use specific examples and details from the story to prove that you have discovered the theme. Look for more than one theme. Many times, books will have more than one theme. One story may include themes of love, hate, jealousy, revenge, and death. When this occurs, try to tie all the events together into one main message. This is the main theme of the story. Look at the clues. Locating the theme of a story is really quite simple. Once you look at the clues, a key clue for finding the theme would be main characters' thoughts and actions. So just like the thoughts and actions of a main character helps us to identify their character traits, those thoughts and actions of a main character help us to identify the theme of a selection. The character will magnify the theme of the book or story by what he or she says, does, or thinks. So you'll be able to clearly see or identify the theme of a selection if you focus in on what the main character says, thinks, and does. What about fables? We'll be reading some fables, and fables are stories that will have a moral for their theme. Aesop's fables have a clear moral lesson that the character learns at the end. For example, in The Tortoise and Hare, the moral is slow and steady wins the race. When you are looking, excuse me, friends, for a theme in a fable, it can usually be found in the last line. That's when I was telling you in our notes that sometimes the theme is stated. A lot of times at the end of a fable, the author will just give you the moral or the lesson. Again, here are some common themes: love, death, redemption. That means getting your revenge. Good versus evil, prejudice, revenge, freedom, friendship, individualism. That means staying true to oneself. Coming of age, getting older, life lessons, overcoming fears, and starting over. Fix your books usually. do not have a moral for a theme. That means like how the way it's stated at the end of a fable. With a fiction book, it's not going to be stated. You must use text clues to make an inference. So think about a movie you saw recently. Talk about some of the themes that you think were shown throughout the film. So I know for me, one movie that I recently saw that had strong themes in it was the movie Soul. Did any of you see the movie Soul? And for me, there were such strong themes in that movie of appreciating life, living every moment to the fullest, uh, um, appreciating your relationships and your friendships with others. So there were so many strong messages throughout that entire movie. What was a movie that you saw that had some strong themes in it? All right, so on the next slides, we're going to practice. We're going to use the steps that we've learned to help us identify the theme for each passage. The Lion and the Mouse. A lion lay asleep in the forest, his great head resting on his paws. A timid little mouse came upon him unexpectedly, and in her fright and haste to get away, ran across the lion's nose. Roused from his nap, the lion laid his huge paw angrily on the tiny creature to kill her. "Spare me," begged the poor mouse. "Please let me go, and someday I will surely repay you." The lion was much amused to think that a mouse could ever help him, but he was generous and finally let the mouse go. Some days later, while stalking his prey in the forest, the lion was caught in the toils of a hunter's net. Unable to free himself, he filled the forest with his angry roaring. Excuse me. The mouse knew the voice quickly found the lion struggling in the net. Running to one of the great ropes that bound him, she gnawed it until it parted, and soon the lion was free. "You laughed when I said I could repay you," said the mouse. "Now you see that even a mouse can help a lion." So I'm thinking that the message from this fable is that we should not take for granted the size. That size of an animal or a person doesn't matter, but that their determination and their strength, that we shouldn't take someone for granted because of their size. Because it says that the lion laughed because the mouse was small. The lion was much amused to think that a mouse could ever help him because the lion is so much larger than a mouse. However, the mouse was able to help. Let's see. A kindness is never wasted. So that goes along with also there are many morals in a story. So the theme or the lesson, another theme or lesson that we could take from this is a kindness is never wasted. So be he excuse me, he was generous and finally let the mouse go. So because of the lion's generous act, his kindness towards the mouse, it was repaid. So there we have it. There are two morals in this story. There's the moral of not taking the size for granted because he assumed that with his size, he wouldn't be able to help him. But then also a kindness is never wasted. Okay, we have one more practice. The ants and the grasshopper. One bright day in late autumn, a family of ants was bustling about in the warm sunshine, drying out the grain they had stored up during the summer when a starving grasshopper, his fiddle under his arm, came up and humbly begged for a bite to eat. "What?" cried the ants in surprise. "Haven't you stored away food for winter? What in the world were you doing all last summer?" "I didn't have time to store up any food," whined the grasshopper. "I was so busy making music that before I knew it, summer was gone." The ants shrugged their shoulders in disgust. Making music were you? They cried. Well, very well now, dance. And they turned their backs on the grasshopper and went on with their work. Mm. So the grasshopper looks like he's learned a hard lesson. When he was making music, he should have been working. So the moral or the lesson that we can learn from here is there's a time for work and there's a time for play, because he played his time away with playing music when he should have been working so that he could have some food. Okay, so in conclusion, an author of a book is simply weaving the story together a story. Just think about what the author wants you to remember the most and what they want you to learn from the story. When you find that, you will have identified the theme. Thank you for listening and following along. You are done with your reading lesson for today.